Okay, this is really bad TV right now because what we're doing is we're setting up all the live streams, and in the meantime, this is all being, recorded. So it's bad TV, but we'll get it back together. All right. Hey, I'm Laura Ramsey with the Oracle Developer Community, and we're here for another episode of DevLIVE at Oracle Open World 2017. And I'm here with Christopher Jones and with Anthony Taninga, and both of whom are involved with Oracle's drivers for Python and for Node.js and for a whole bunch of other stuff. So catch us up, Christopher. What have you guys been doing?
We've been doing a lot of this open world to cap off a really great year. We, as you say, look after data access APIs for the Oracle database. So my wider group looks after everything including JDBC and .NET. And then here in our little subgroup, we look after most of the C-based APIs, including the Oracle Call Interface, OCI, if that I comes out like a English I instead of an Australian I for interface. And then a lot of the scripting languages are built on top of C. So we have the PHP drivers for Oracle Database, Node.js drivers for Oracle Database, even R for the R language, and of course Python for Oracle Database. So with me is Anthony Taninga, who's really been key to that because he is the creator and maintainer, and that works for Oracle, of that Python CX_Oracle database interface for Oracle Database. And this year he's been really busy working on infrastructure, which is going to really springboard us into the future. Anthony, do you want to tell us a little bit about this ODPI and what that is and how that works?
Yeah, the ODPI C layer is a C layer that simplifies access to the database. OCI is a very complex API, and we tried to simplify it. I started initially with the Node Oracle DB driver because there was a simplification layer in there already. I took that one, and then I took the CX Oracle, and I put them together and came up with ODPI-C.
And it worked?
It worked.
And where does it work? Where can that be found, and who uses it?
It's on GitHub.
Good.
Yep. And CX Oracle uses it. Node Oracle DB is using it for version 2. Yep. And we also have a number of third parties that are using it, Go and Rust and Ruby. So it's been taken up quite well.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So its main target was those developers of APIs for the Oracle database.
Right.
And they have really responded. We've had some really positive comments and emails, and as you can see on GitHub issues, the tracking system, they're not issues, just saying that they actually like this. It's made their life easier, so much easier. It wraps things up for them. So Anthony's been really instrumental in getting that C wrapper layer out there. It's open source. You can use it, by the way, for other projects. You can just take that code, stick it into your own applications, and just use that to connect through to the Oracle database if you want to.
That's cool.
Yeah, but it is targeted particularly at the driver writers, so that's where we have it. It's on GitHub in the Oracle's GitHub/Oracle namespace, which is administered by the Oracle Developer Community.
Right.
So what is the Oracle Developer Community? Can you explain how that differs from OTN for the people who haven't quite caught up with that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So over the past 18 months, we have mounted a very aggressive program strategy for connecting with our developers. And this is all up and down the red stack. So it's not just the database developers, which you are interacting with quite a bit. It is all the way up into the middleware layers, the JavaScript, all the way up to the top, the CX type of developers.
So, glad you explained that to me. Of course, that's a different CX to this CX, but that's just coincidental. But anyway.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
So what we've done is the Oracle Technology Network has got decades of excellent background about all of the Oracle technologies, our database, our products, how to use the products, get the best out of that. But when it came to an actual one-on-one building the community for developers, we decided to take a move toward a better environment for that. So that's what our program is now kind of responding to, is a much more interaction with our developers.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Sorry.
Sorry
for the sidetrack. I just did want to kind of get that plug in there. OTN has been really instrumental in supporting all of this database developer work. So way back in the day when I was really focused dedicatedly, I'm from Australia, we don't speak proper, when I was dedicated to working on PHP and the PHP OCI 8 interface for the Oracle database, it was OTN who was sponsoring my travel around to conferences and things like that. So you've really been pushing up through the stack.
Yes, and that support and that commitment to participating in the community, we'll still carry that as a program area. But really right now, we're very focused on just bringing the developers in and participating with them.
But you know, that communities really just amazes me. I mean, we've had this year OTN, as it was, now Oracle Developer Community, recognize the maintainers and creators of the Ruby OCI 8 adapter, which is, you know, C-base calls, makes C-base calls but exposes Ruby APIs to the Ruby users, and then the Ruby on Rails active record framework on top of that. So the maintainers and creators of those were recognized this year as OTN aces.
Wow, yeah, good.
Which, you know, I'm just totally amazed the amount of work that those two people put out. So that's Takahiro Kubo and Yasuo Honda, to give them their formal names. You know, they do those pretty much in their spare time.
Yeah.
And they're just out there responding to Oracle customer questions to make Oracle technologies work better for them.
Yeah.
And Anthony was the same. He did all of that for many, many years outside the Oracle framework. A little bit, you know, work sponsored just because work needed some of this stuff, but the rest of it is, you know, all free time work. And I think this year, and the last couple of years since he's been with Oracle, we've really pushed that out, you know, expanded documentation, formalized things. We've moved everything to GitHub. You know, the kind of community is really solidifying and building.
Yeah, so that's definitely the truth. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how the two of you interact in the open source communities. Because, you know, working at Oracle, you get paid for what you do.
Yeah, so that's a privilege. It is a privilege. Yep.
So how do you participate in open source communities?
You know, sitting back here, smoking a pipe. Before we came on and you told us what we were going to talk about, is just sort of interviewing ourselves about how our day works and the kinds of problems we face and things like that. So I was going to pretend that we were doing our normal day routine. So Anthony's like in Canada in his afternoon, evening. I've just woken up in Australia. So I'm like, we've got this video conference on and I'm like eating my breakfast cereal going, you know. Like, and Anthony's had a whole day's worth of work, and then I kind of come along and make him do like another day's worth of work, and he stays up late and things like that. So that's just how we personally interact. We work pretty closely together on this. But you know, how do we work with the community? We work in all of the normal channels, which is, you know, social media, emails, the GitHub issues list. I wish they had a better name for that, but it's, you know, the question forum and issues for GitHub projects. Yep. PHP has its own internal mail list. CX Oracle has a legacy mail list we still get questions on. Oracle Developer Network has forums we get questions on. Stack Overflow, all of these standard developer places are places where the users and people who want to contribute actually communicate with us. And so we do have third-party contributions into these stacks. Obviously, I spoke about Ruby as being, you know, really tightly outside the Oracle scope because they're so well looked after. Right. But, you know, other people come in and they want to improve the drivers that we, you know, maintain as lead maintainers. Right. And so they make contributions and push forward and log bugs and say, hey, it'd be great if you can do that. And so one of those, actually, I will just speak about one just for the sake of speaking about it, was that this new access layer, the ODPI C layer, which we're using underneath all of the drivers, you know, so it's just a stack, so it's another layer of the stack. We had it out, it was statically linked, well, not statically linked, but it was linking at dynamically loaded at runtime. Yeah. So you would build your stack and it would look for the Oracle client libraries, and it would need to know where they were and things like that. And you'd build your application with like a version of 12.2 of the Oracle client libraries, and then you'd have to rebuild it if you wanted to work with 11.2. And Anthony, maybe you can take up the story, but somebody came along and reviewed what we were looking at. Yep. And what was the result of that, and how does it work now?
Yeah, someone suggested that we look into dynamic loading of the client libraries. And I did do that, and I found that it worked well. Really? Yeah. So now we can have 11.2, 12.1, and 12.2 all running all at the same time. You just have to switch your configuration, and you're off and running. No need to rebuild.
Yeah, so the CX Oracle drivers, this Node Oracle DB v2, anything which uses that ODPI stack, just uses this runtime DL open, dynamically looks for the libraries in your search path, and we'll pick up what's available, and then obviously give you more features if you've got the latest versions of the Oracle stack available. But you know, it is a simple thing. I mean, it just sounded like simple. You're probably saying, oh, you could do that in your sleep. But it's really like this question of priorities, right? You know, we have 1,000 million things we can do, but this was one which somebody said, hey, this would really help me, and you know, can you make it happen? Anthony, you know, relatively quickly had made it happen, made it portable. We tested it on a bunch of platforms from IAX and Solaris down to Mac and Windows and things like that. So it's all out there. So. That's just a little snippet. Yeah, one example. We do that sort of day to day as we go through it. It's open source, so we're continually reprioritizing.
Right.
You know, we don't have these big long-term schedules. We have goals, but then we just make sure we can get to the next stage pretty quickly.
But speaking of priorities, I mean, you must have some ideas about what you wanted, what sort of functionality you want to include next, and how you want to build this thing out. What are a few of the next things that you're working on that you know, people should be looking forward to?
Sharding?
Sharding has been mostly implemented already in the Python driver. So,
nice.
So that's actually in the GitHub master branch as source code. So if you want to play with it, you can kind of build it and play with it yourself. But there's no binaries that you're built yet for that.
No official release yet.
Okay.
So that's an Oracle database feature. You can shard databases, scale out, that kind of thing. So that's available now. And then we've got something coming up, which, are we supposed to speak about futures? Yes, no, but at the conference we do, and this is open source, so, if it never happens, it never happens. But in the Java space, there's a technology for document storage, and that's called SODA, Simple Oracle Document Access. So that's actually on GitHub as well, so that's a Java project. That could be possibly going to come out in the future version of the Oracle database. And then we would pick that up in the ODPI C layer, which will be pretty simple because it'll be in OCI. We'll just put a little wrapper in ODPI. And then, again, we can just then expose that into the Node Oracle DB, into the CX Oracle, into the PHP PDO, and anything else which wants to pick up that access method. And, if you want to store JSON in the database, you can do that right now because we have JSON data types. But this is still just, people like having a document store. They just want to stick blobs in and go with it, use CRUD operations on it. So that's a future release, quote unquote, the kinds of things that we're looking at. So.
Good. Well, there's two very good ones.
Yeah,
good examples.
Yeah.
Okay, so what build are you on for the Node.js Oracle DB?
What build are we on? So Node Oracle DB is on 1.13 at the moment, is the latest and greatest. That's the driver itself. That works with. I need diagrams. Laura, where's my whiteboard?
Oh, sorry.
We have this client-server model in Oracle database, so you can build Node Oracle DB and run it with 11.2, 12.1, 12.2 client, and then it can speak to all different database versions at the back end. So you can speak to like a 9.2 database, a 12.2 database, depending which one you've got. This client-server interoperability lets us do that. The Oracle network layer just automatically does the mapping. So that's where we're up with that. We've got a version 2 out there on GitHub. So it's a developer release, 2.0 developer release, so people can start playing with that. And that's the one which is built on this ODPI, the refactored stack underneath. So that's pretty good. Anthony's a little bit ahead of us, so he went from a 5 this release to a 6.
Yep, CX Oracle 6 was released in August.
Nice.
With the ODPI C layer underneath it.
Very good.
It's the first one that we could produce with Python wheels, which is a big deal.
What's Python wheels?
Those are a special package format that Python uses to install packages. So prior to this, people had to download the packages directly. And now you can use the pip Python package tool to install. Makes it much easier. Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.
So you've got the binaries now for Linux as well as Windows, and as you say, you just run this standard pip infrastructure for installing. Just downloads the binaries which we've built, and away you've gone.
Nice.
Yeah. And
but wait,
slightly off the track of that, but Oracle Linux Group in the last week now have RPMs with the CX Oracle driver as well, and they'll be pushing out some of the other drivers. The Ruby OCI 8 is there, and they'll get onto the other drivers. When this chaos of this huge conference around us has subsided, I don't know that people at home know exactly what's going on here, but this is a tens of thousands of attendees kind of conference. It's pretty big. It's a lot of preparation, and when we get home, they'll sort that out. But if you're on Oracle Linux, yum.oracle.com, there's a developer channel for Oracle Linux 6, Oracle Linux 7.
Nice.
And you can just say, yum install cx_oracle.
And it'll just
work. It works with the version of Python which is native on the Linux.
Right.
And Oracle Linux Group has the updated application stacks for Ruby and Node called Software Collections Library, SCL.
Yep.
And they've also got drivers, which are versions of CX Oracle, which are compatible with those versions as well. So you've kind of got multiple packages out there, and it'll just install the one you want. So
very nice. Okay, so we talked about Python.
Yep.
We talked about Node.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about the OCI and all that.
Yep.
So let's talk about R.
No, let's not talk about R.
Oh, come on.
No.
I love R.
Yeah, R's good. R is interesting. So R is like a statistical programming language.
Yep.
Python are kind of fighting it out in there in that space to see what's coming on. We have an R driver out there called R Oracle.
Yep.
The reason I really don't want to speak about that is there is somebody who looks after that in a dedicated way. It's not me. But we have this Oracle R Enterprise Stacks, which is bigger. But there's a little bit of that, which is the R Oracle driver, which is the interface between the R language and the Oracle database driver. And it has all of the kinds of features we talked about at this stage. For performance reasons, I don't know whether it'll ever go to ODPIC or will it just be pure OCI. Certainly you have these advantages of ODPI if it wants to go that, but ODPI is a wrapper, so you lose a few % here or there, and people are pretty sensitive to that in the R world, so we have to wait and see whether that's going to happen. But
okay, so every year you have these rankings of the most popular languages.
It's productivity with choice, whatever the slogan is. It's 300% your choice. Whatever skills you have in your company, stick with those skills because we have the drivers for your languages.
Fantastic.
No need to check. We're seeing some interest in things like the Go language coming up.
Yeah.
So we hope to be able to spend some more time there and nurture that community. But they're pretty active and really happy at the moment anyway. So.
My observation when I read this year's, which is it's written by an analyst who does not even play a developer on TV, right? So from your point of view, what do you think the top 5 languages are right now that are being used? Just general purpose, just what's your gut feel?
.NET,
Java,
C,
.NET, C.
Python is probably pretty much up
Python.
there, yeah. Some of the others from our numbers are very equal, so I don't really know whether it's us or the communities out there.
Right.
I was speaking with a business analyst about this question today, and they're a little hesitant. In fact, they've started their own surveys because they're a little hesitant about trying to interpret any of those numbers. And they also say that the download numbers are really not very indicative anymore of popularity of languages and things like that.
Why do they say that?
Because they're experts in that area, Laura.
And because they cannot get at the download numbers.
We can see a lot of download numbers. GitHub is perhaps the exception. We don't have good download numbers, but Python is all in big table. You can go and query that stuff, and we can break down and see just the numbers. It's all on the websites for PHP and Ruby and things like that. But
okay, so all right, here's the thing. So I just barely know how to do a little bit of HTML. I mean, just a little bit. And I built my first Apex app about an hour and 15 minutes ago, and I think David Peak actually managed that process very well. The lights did not flicker, everything was fine. So I'm coming out of absolutely nowhere. What language should I learn first?
Python.
Huh? Python?
Yeah.
Is it that easy? Is it declarative?
It is.
Am I allowed to say stop in my code and it will stop?
You can say close.
Yeah.
Close. Okay.
Yeah. It's a simple language to learn. It's being taught in universities and so forth as a first language for that reason.
Really?
So,
what could I build with Python?
With your phone?
What could I build with Python?
Oh, everything.
Yeah, seriously everything.
Just anything.
Yeah. Big apps, we have very big customers using it. Or DBAs might use it for a little data pump or a little control language.
Nice.
With or without the Oracle database, just drop the Oracle bit in if they need to connect. But Laura, you shouldn't be asking leading questions because really it's up to the users, where their skill sets are. You shouldn't, if you've got a skill set in one area, do not try and just suddenly migrate your whole development experience away from that really seriously.
I think but I do think it's really relevant. I mean, because more and more line of business developers, they're coming in. These are the people that did not even date a computer scientist.
Yeah, sure.
And so,
You just go with the market. If you're learning programming, you don't know anything about it. It might be a scripting language, so you choose something. For web-based, you might go with a PHP, something simple. Python is going to be more general purpose. Our Python driver for the Oracle database. And I use the word driver, and this is kind of something I'm confused about. It's an old Oracle term, but if I use API, if we use interface, I mean the same things, but I don't know what the current best practice is, as people just accept it as part of Python.
Right.
And I've now lost track of where I'm going with that, but yeah, I've lost it, Laura. You've phased me. I've sidetracked myself onto that. So
poor Chris.
Jet lag from Australia.
Oh,
yeah.
so sorry about that.
Yeah.
So I follow your blog each and every week, and I'm reading your documentation quite a bit out there on Python.
Good.
So what else? Where else would you like to point our audience to get a hold of the drivers, the documentation, to join in with you?
It's GitHub.
GitHub?
Yeah.
Best place?
Got Node Oracle DB, CX Oracle are all on GitHub. They can contact us easily. My email's out there, I'm on Twitter and things like that, so feel free.
That's wonderful.
You can call us anytime, I think, is the way it goes, but then you know how to do that anyway.
Yeah.
So
I usually just DM you on Twitter.
Yeah.
Help! All right.
But if you want to build an application, start with Python or something like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
I'll let you know next year how it turns out.
Well, you could come along to our lab tomorrow morning. We're running a lab up at the Hilton, so we've got.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
So.
I only have a Mac. Can I do Python on the Mac?
The computers are all supplied. Everything's set up. We can give you the
thank
scripts and
goodness
things
for
like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, I will say one thing about that is we've run these labs. Actually, we haven't run it for a few years. Ebbs and flows. You do something new, whatever.
Yeah.
This year is the first year we've got the waiting list for the labs, so we're kind of pretty
that's
happy about
cool.
that. Yeah.
That's really cool. Congratulations. Right on. All right. Well, it's been real. It's been fun.
Okay. Thank you, Laura.
All right.
Thank you,
All right.
Anthony.
Thanks.